It is no secret that How to Train Your Dragon is awesome. One of the elements in the movie that I feel like is somewhat overlooked though is the animation. It's good, like so good. Let's deep dive into the innovative techniques used by DreamWorks animators to make these dragons come to life. As you know, animators have been using reference since forever. If they want to create a realistic character, they bring in an actor, record them, and use that footage as the foundation for the animation. And when the character isn't human, they use animals. This techniques help create realistic, grounded, animated performances. Now, when How to Train Your Dragon was started, they wanted to create realistic, awesome dragons that felt grounded. However, there was no real dragons to bring into the studio. So what do you do in a situation like this? This is Simon Otto, the head of character animation for How to Train Your Dragon. He created this technique called salad bowling to help bring these dragons to life.
One system that I came up with called Salad Bowl. The idea of collecting all kinds of ideas that are even remotely relevant and put them together in a movie. You know, for example, a bumblebee, a Harley Davidson, hummingbirds, and we kind of put them together. And not one single clip gives you the answer for everything, but the sum of all these pieces gives you a flavor of what this character could be like.
They would mix and match random reference and put them together to make one cohesive and unique dragon experience.
The Deadly Natter being a mixture between a T-Rex, a parrot, an ostrich. Monster's Nightmare is our more classical dragon, and but we looked at definitely long-necked birds were really big inspirations, and then a ton of predators. The hideous Sippleback is that gets really tricky. I think there's a two-headed snake that exists, and we looked at some of that. But Toothless, probably the biggest mix and match of all the dragons, because he's a black panther, bats, owls. There's a scene where he walks off the rock and he kind of crawls up to Hiccup, who's extending the fish, and he kind of goes sideways, and that was inspired by wallabies and wombats.
Animators did not stop there though. Once they figured out the reference they were going to use, they brought in a real-life biologist to help build these characters and make their designs as realistic as possible.
Most of the dragons that you see in How to Train Your Dragon, how you have an enormous amount of biomechanical inspiration in real-life flight biomechanics, which flap sequences that the artist worked on with some of the animal inspiration, and you can see all the different iterations of the kind of body movement that went into this. So look at the rotation that takes place in Toothless's arm, just like the rotation that takes place in a bat's arm. That is superb biology. I can teach flight mechanics in a comparative animal anatomy class with How to Train Your Dragon. The reason it works is because the studio has decided that the biological inspiration for characters is a very potent tool for creating the differences in their characters.
So clearly the animators put a lot of work and research and time into creating the dragons. Even after combining all these different animals and consulting a scientist, the biggest inspiration behind one of Toothless's most famous moments is heartwarmingly simple.
There's a scene in the first How to Train Your Dragon where Toothless is mimicking Hiccup's smile, and that was just around the time when I had a baby. And I remembered that my son was sort of trying to smile, and it was kind of this weird. And we thought that was a great idea. Let's try and make Toothless do that.
For me, as an animator, the main takeaway of the story is you can combine a bunch of familiar things to make something 100% brand new. Dragons definitely don't exist, but the ones in the movie feel familiar because they have a strong foundation in real-life science. DreamWorks animators are always bringing in reference from real life. In one of their latest movies, they use the movement of Billie Eilish as inspiration for their characters. And you can watch that video right here.